Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Raw report for the 21st of December 2020. And between some interesting things with work and it being a holiday week, my schedule is not what it normally is, and I've got some challenges coming into January of 2021. So, certainly things may change around here, but I'll try and be here on a weekly basis as much as possible, and we'll update if I find out I'm not here. Anyway, the Raw show continues to get, well, worse, and although the ratings didn't drop again to another record low of almost 28 years, but I expect that to happen coming forward. Stage is decorated with Christmas trees. Announcers hype the show, and they include a hype for message with Randy Orton. Charlotte Flair, she says that she's happy to be in the Thunderdome, and she wonders what it would be like without having a queen in the Thunderdome. Well, just tune into the last almost year, and that's what you've got. Anyway, or 6 months anyway. Charlotte walks in the Thunderdome for the first time as champion, because she's always a champion, and this hasn't changed. She says she's the headline of the women's edition. Asuka comes out. She boasts about being a double champion. Asuka said Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler are not ready for her or Charlotte, and Charlotte is about to ask about the women's Raw title, but is interrupted by Jax and Baszler. Jax says it's good to see Charlotte, and noted that it must have taken 6 months to recover from the beating that Nia laid on her. Jax also notes that 6 months off didn't fix Charlotte's robotic voice, and Nia needs to get lessons on, well, if Charlotte's a robot, then what are you? Charlotte told her that they kicked tail last night. Baszler and Jax bragged about handing out beatings on their own to Lana and Kairi Sane. If they're comparing them with Charlotte, that doesn't even make sense. Mandy Rose, Dana Brooke interrupt. Brooke says Jax looks like Rudolph the nose job reindeer. Har har har. Anyway, Rose makes a comments about her looks at well. The idea is she looks like a reindeer. I don't know how that became an insult in 2020, but anyway. They hype Raw Legends Night for January 4th. Hogan, Flair, Angle, Phoenix, Beth Phoenix, that is, Tori Wilson, and more will appear. Nia Jackson, Shayna Baszler defeat Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke in almost 13 minutes. Yes, I cannot believe I just said that. Nearly a quarter hour dedicated to that mess. Asuka and Charlotte join on commentary. The announcers ask who they wanted to win. Basically, Asuka says she wants Rose and Brooke to win. Rose and Brooke take down their opponents early with dives. They follow up with some bad spots. Not Nyla Rose, getting confused. Mandy Rose gets knocked off the apron by barely touching, being touched by Nia Jax. Nyla and Nia need to change names in some form. One of them does anyway. They both are rather talentless folks. Anyway, Jax tossed her into the barricade. They go to commercial. Heels work over Rose. Rose hits a knee strike and tags in Brooke. Jax breaks up cover. Rose takes her out with a flying knee off the apron. Brooks gets a couple of near falls on Baszler. Baszler catches her with the Coquina Clutch and get the submission win. I mean, it basically, she almost tapped before the hold is locked in, which is just goofy. Anyway, Baszler and Jax brag about being champs. Brooks and Rose dumped them out of the ring, and their music played. This was a waste of time. Hurt Business bullied some guy in the back. He's wearing a New Day shirt. They rip off the shirt and put him in a Hurt Business shirt. I guess this is product placement. Uh, Things announced for SmackDown: Owens and Reigns in a cage match, Zayn and Big E for the IC title, Charlotte and Asuka defending the tag belts, Jeff Hardy and Riddle against Lashley and MVP is announced for later tonight. Hurt Business enter. They're all wearing suits and gold. MVP says the VIP lounge is for people better than you. I guess they're watching MJF. They should be. It would improve the promos around there if most people watched MJF. Anyway, Sheldon Benjamin begins talking about their win, but they are interrupted by Cedric Alexander. He brags about beating the New Day. Lashley and Benjamin basically kind of look like this kid's going to get himself in trouble. Lashley calls himself dominant and said nobody could beat him. MVP brings out a photographer to photograph the moment. The photographer enters the ring and begins taking photos. R-Truth appears and poses with the 24/7 title. 24/7 losers associated with the division run out. And then they basically play Christmas Tree Solemn. Riddle and Hardy interrupt. Even though Hardy's music plays, Riddle congratulates Hurt Business on the win, but wondered why they spent a great deal of money on celebrating. Riddle says that all you needed to do, hang out with your bros while listening to Joe Rogan or watching Dave Chappelle. This is just out of touch references. Anyway, Riddle said they're all the same self-aware creatures traveling on a rock through the solar system. Hardy says there's more important things in life than status and money, like dyeing your hair purple and building home drug labs, apparently, if you go back into his history. And no, I'm not. I'm just trying to imagine what the Jeff Hardy character would think is more important. Anyway, he said they'd rather live with pride than greed. Hardy's music hit and away they go. Nearly 3/4 of the hour through the first hour, and nothing has changed with this program from the abysmalness of last week. 2.25 minutes. Angel Garza defeats Drew Gulak, and the match is literally nothing. Garza wins with a sloppy finish. Sarah interviews Garza before the match. He said he'd be fighting Gulak, but would be thinking of her. Hands her a rose. Garza enters. The announcer said they'd heard from him a lot recently, and he hasn't been on Raw in weeks. Garza wins with a super kick, and a wing clipper. Charlie Caruso approached AJ Styles. He's got a bruise on the side of his face, and Styles tells Caruso that The Miz screwed him out of the title, and she wondered why he agreed to be on Miz TV. Styles says he wanted to hear what The Miz had to say for himself. So basically, if someone does you wrong, you still give them a chance to defend themselves? Anyway, Miz and Morrison stand in the ring for Miz TV. Miz says he failed at his goal of becoming champion. Miz apologized to his family for laying them down. Morrison said that he wasn't the only apology, that he and Miz has called out Styles, and almost entered the segment. Miz begins to explain himself to Styles. Styles interrupts him, basically says he's the dumbest person on earth. Styles says Miz blew it. Miz fires back and said he knows what happens. He successfully cashed in the contract 10 years ago, wanted to do it again, and after 15 years of hard work, people still don't respect him. Well, that's because in 15 years you have been given the grand total of about 4 interesting storylines in basically a decade and a half of your life. Miz wants respect from the fans and from Styles. And Miz said they were both robbed last night, and he apologizes to Styles. Miz has a gift for Styles, an opportunity to be in the next Marine movie. Basically, they show a poster where Styles is almost edged out, almost in Styles' are on the poster, but they're barely visible. Styles is so small. He yells at Miz. They argue. Almost pointed out that Morrison's the one that cashed in the briefcase, not Miz. Styles and Morrison argue. Almost leaves the ring for a random reason nobody knows. Miz realized that Almost is right. Morrison cashed in, not him, and he said he should have the briefcase back. Drew McIntyre interrupts this. Poor McIntyre recalls celebrating over the win last night with Sheamus and Keith Lee. They walk into a sequel of Nightmare Before TLC. He said he wrote a new story on napkins, Nightmare After TLC. This is just horrible. This is reminding me of the suffering succotash thing for Roman Reigns a few years ago. Anyway, Sheamus and Lee interrupted, and they all read a little line from the story. McIntyre realized that they didn't write down an ending, so they gave up on it and decided to come to with a new ending in the ring right now. They enter the ring and attack the heels, and Omos, who should be bodyguarding at this point, is nowhere to be found. Sheamus is about to finish things off with a brogue kick. Styles drops Lee onto him. Sheamus gets in Lee's face for ruining his moment. McIntyre tries to calm him down, and all the heels run away. Lee and Sheamus argue backstage. McIntyre got between them. McIntyre said if they didn't stop, he'd knock them both out. So basically, he's going to knock out his friends to get them to behave nicely. That's different. Anyway, McIntyre demands that Sheamus go calm down. McIntyre tries to reason with Lee and admitted Sheamus can be a hothead sometimes. So I guess there's a match coming between those two somewhere in the future. Lee agreed to leave it alone. T-Bar defeats Ricochet in just under 3 minutes, about 2 3/4 minutes. Ricochet fights off all the members of Retribution, and the referee does nothing. Mustafa Ali tries lecturing him. Ricochet goes after him. This allows T-Bar to grab Ricochet and hits his finish. This was awful. T-Bar threatens to end Ricochet's existence. That's a little harsh. Anyway, pre-tape from the New Day. They tipped their cap to the Hurt Business for winning the tag titles. New Day knew they'd get them back because they've done it before. This is just flat. Bobby Lashley and MVP with Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander defeat Riddle and Jeff Hardy in just under 12 minutes, about 11 3/4 minutes. Riddle and Hardy are in control for the majority of the early part of the contest. They go to break. Lashley pulls Hardy off top, and then he falls kind of awkwardly on the outside. Riddle goes nuts on MVP. Alexander tries to distract Riddle. Doesn't work out. He then keeps going. Riddle hits a fisherman suplex. Lashley breaks up the cover and tags himself in. Goes nuts on Riddle. Riddle knees out a delayed vertical suplex. Hardy tags himself in. Riddle hit Lashley with a knee strike and wiped out Benjamin and Alexander with a dive. Hardy goes to the top, but had to fend off MVP. Lashley dodges a swanton attempt and applies the Hurt Lock. Match was fine enough. Riker with Elias defeats Grand Metalik in less than a minute. Elias cuts a promo before the match, and he basically is bragging about his music. Elias climbs the top rope to perform with his guitar. Metalik dodges a charge by Riker and then yanks Elias down with a Rana. Dorado posed with the guitar. Riker comes back and knocks down Metalik with a clothesline before hitting a sit-out bomb for the win. We enter the third hour. Randy Orton comes out. Orton is smiling. Phillips tried to rationalize Orton winning the match by setting part of the Fiend on fire because those were the rules, but he thought it went too far. Orton says he's called sick, twisted, deranged, and demented. He proved that he's all these things. He said he burned the Fiend alive. Orton said a normal man would have regrets for doing something like that, but The Fiend was no man. Orton himself is not a normal man either. Orton said he could still see and smell it, which is just gross. Is he like a serial killer now? Anyway, he couldn't sleep last night because of the voices in his head, which normally are a lullaby. He said all he could hear were screams. The lights begin to go on and off. Orton bails from the ring. Jim Purple Light is there, and Alexa Bliss is on a swing set. She invites Orton to come to the ring and play. Alexa Bliss is wonderful. I just wish they weren't wasting her in this way. Bliss said maybe he was on a beach, hopefully not getting a sunburn, at his favorite restaurant, having his favorite food, barbecue. Bliss thought maybe he was absorbed into the mat and into the earth, but maybe he'll be back one day on Bliss's playground, and if he comes back, it'll be unlike anything seen before. The lights go out again. They cut to the announcers. Announcers look confused, as does everyone who watched this. Non-title women's tag match. Asuka and Charlotte defeat Peyton Royce and Lacey Evans in almost 8.5 minutes. This was about 7.5 minutes too long. Shriver interviews Royce and Evans before the match. Evans offers her thoughts that they might not be ready for this. Evans begins making an entrance. Royce makes it clear that she's the one who got this match made. Exactly how, we do not know. And honestly, most people don't care. Then they go to break about less than a minute into the match. Royce and Evans are in control. They, however, are not getting along. Asuka gives Royce a German suplex, tags in Charlotte, who gave Evans high-angle back suplex, which doesn't look very promising. She hits Royce with chops and a big boot. Charlotte sets up the figure four. Evans gets in the way. Charlotte suplexes her. Royce puts Charlotte in a single leg crab. Asuka breaks it up before knocking down Evans with a kick. Royce uses a roll-up for a near fall. Charlotte follows up with figure eight for the submission win. We finally get a babyface win about maybe 2.5 hours into the program. Lee, Sheamus, and McIntyre are shown getting ready for their six-man tag match. Titus O'Neil gifts a new car to a school staff member. This is nice, but out of place. Miz is on the phone with someone trying to get his Money in the Bank briefcase back. Styles approaches him and ends the call. They give almost 18 minutes to the six-man holiday street fight. McIntyre, Sheamus, and Keith Lee defeat AJ with almost Miz and Morrison. They were using tags in a street fight, which makes no sense. Sheamus and Morrison exchange early. They were relevant 10 years ago, not so much now. Good guys are doing pretty well. Sheamus and Lee get a bit heated. Sheamus works over Styles. Sheamus and McIntyre take shots away at the chests of Miz and Morrison. They push Miz and Morrison into Lee. He hits a dive. Morrison throws a gift box into the ring, and the announcers let it know there's no DQs in this thing. Sheamus and Morrison battle on the top turnbuckle. This results in Sheamus falling through a table. On the outside, heels take advantage. McIntyre and Lee watch from the apron and do nothing, which is just ridiculous in a no DQ match. Anyway, Sheamus hits a white noise, tags in McIntyre, tosses around Miz and Morrison, and then McIntyre gives Miz a spine buster. AJ breaks it up momentarily. Moves. Styles hits a kendo stick. it looks like a candy cane. He uses it on McIntyre. McIntyre fights back, powerbombs Styles through a table. So we've just seen TLC, but we're still using tables liberally here. Sheamus and Morrison battle with kendo sticks, and Miz gets set up for a Claymore kick. Sheamus tags himself in. McIntyre hits a move, which Lee tags himself in. Sheamus can't do anything. Morrison is about to get involved. Lee knocks him off the apron into the arms of the bodyguard, and Morrison was relieved and almost drops him through the table. Lee gives Miz a spirit bomb for a pinfall win, and Sheamus gives Lee a brogue kick. McIntyre yells at Sheamus, and they abruptly go off the air. So we're going to waste Keith Lee and give him Sheamus to work with going into the new year. And that closes... Is it the last Raw of the year? No, I think there's one more. Anyway, this show is horrible, and hopefully it continues to go under in 2021, because at this point I just find it laughable. Anyway, we'll be back with more, including AEW Dark and a really quick Impact review, because it's a review show, and more of the Mid-South series from 1983. Hope to finish that by the end of the weekend. Anyway, happy holidays, everyone. Take care.